Hello. Oh, welcome to another edition of the Inside View. And my name is Dana again. And today we're going to talk about an interesting topic. As we all age, we lose track, as to how we should, take good care of ourselves. And today we are going to be educated on how, as we age, how we can have a balanced diet and also how we can retard our aging process, through nutrition. So I have with me here a very beautiful lady. But before, um, sorry, I introduce her. Sorry, I'm wearing a T-shirt today. That was given to me by Canvas. Um, Canvas. Uh, sorry, Canvas of His Grace. Sorry, and it's my own, daughter's, clothing line, and the purpose of this whole T-shirt is to preach the gospel of Christ. So the motto of this brand is to wear the word, read the word, and also breathe the word, share the word through this T-shirt. So if you want a sample, or like if you want to buy this T-shirt, you can visit Canvas of His Grace, and it's on all social media. It's on her Instagram, Canvas of His Grace Limited, and also on Facebook, it's Canvas of His Grace. So I'm wearing today Canvas of His Grace. So Esther, thank you so much for this beautiful T-shirt. Thank you so much. Yeah. So back to tonight's discussion. We are going to be educated on nutrition, just like I said. And I have with me here a young lady who has really done so well for herself. And she is the vice chair of the British Dietetic Association, London. She's also a freelance dietitian at Carbon Nutrition and Dietetics. And also, she's a senior specialist community dietitian at Guy's and St. Thomas NHS Trust. Welcome to the Inside View, Jasmine Cabin.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for
Hi,
that
good evening.
introduction, Anna. Hello.
And how are you?
I'm doing okay in London. It's a bit humid, to say
It's
the
humid here
least.
as well. It's boiling hot in Bradford. But
Yeah,
hey, we
yeah.
can't complain, isn't it? We
Absolutely. Yeah,
hardly get
definitely not
sunshine.
complaining. Yeah, I'm very,
Yeah.
very thankful for this lovely bit of sun that we have.
I
And
think hopefully
yeah,
in 2 to 3 months' time it's going to be windy and raining and
yeah,
everything. So
back to
we
normal.
should
So
enjoy
yeah,
the sunshine.
absolutely, absolutely. Yes, no, thank you for having me to speak with your audience today. It's yeah, hopefully people are going to get some good bits of information to take with them.
Amazing, amazing. So, um, what do you have for us? Because I know you're going to talk about nutrition, in aging. But for you, um, how did you go into this field, or what motivated you to go to dietitian? What
Yeah.
motivated you to go into that?
So initially, I wanted to go into medicine, and as part of the kind of application process of going into medicine, you have to do a bit of a work experience beforehand. So I remember kind of within my college years, kind of speaking to people that I know who would be able to get me to do some work experience with some doctors. And I must have been about 16, 17 years old, and I got to shadow a consultant and his junior doctors around in Royal Brompton Hospital in southwest London. And the experience traumatized me, to be honest. It made me think,
Really?
right, this is something that I do not want to do. It might have just been the team I was with. It might have been something in the air, but I just didn't. I felt that it wasn't for me. It wasn't my calling. But then I stuck with it, carried on with the placement, and I remember I was in a cystic fibrosis clinic. So cystic fibrosis is, just to quickly explain, it's a disease of the lungs. And I had the option to either stay with a doctor, as they went to go see all their different patients, or stay with this one family and have all the different healthcare professionals come and review them. And they were twins. I thought I wanted to stay with them because they were, very chatty and they were just so joyful. I thought, no, I want to stay with these the patients and see all the other healthcare professionals. So yeah, after the consultant left, I'm pretty sure a specialist nurse came to see them, a physiotherapist came to see them, and their dietitian came to see them. So that was my first sighting or kind of knowledge of a dietitian in a hospital setting, because when I first, well, on hearing the word dietitian, you kind of think all they do is weight loss. That's literally it. But to see this dietitian, kind of give food advice that was going to help and manage the disease of these children, it just made me think, wow, I can almost be in medicine, but not be in a medicine, and use things which are to all our disposals to manage, treat, and prevent, and even cure certain diseases. So I think that was a light bulb moment for me, and I thought this is something I want to do. Within my family, we're quite health conscious. We try to eat healthy anyway, so I thought it's kind of aligns quite well with what I
Yeah.
do already. Um, yeah, I went to a couple open days for some universities that did nutrition and dietetics, and the rest is history. So yeah, I thank the idea that I initially had to go into medicine, because if I didn't want to do that, then I never would have found this career, which I am loving.
Wow. So, why have we made to, actually being made to believe that dietitian, or, like a dietitian is somebody who just, concentrates on, helping people to lose weight, but
Mm,
not into what you just said? Because I'm educated now. I mean, not knowing that, dietitian, they do more, help
thank you
people
so
to,
much.
cure certain diseases through
Yeah,
food. I mean, I
yeah.
think that's my first time of hearing this. So, I mean, how come, like all these years we've been made to believe
Mm,
that a dietitian is someone who just concentrates on just losing weight, just helping people to lose weight, but not the other
mm,
way around.
mm. I guess that it's because a lot of people who need the help of a dietitian is at that point where they need, help to lose weight. And I guess within the public, and if you wanted to see a dietitian, be it maybe in a GP, years ago, that was the main reason why you would see them. But now there's just so many different reasons for pretty much every health condition you can think of, there should be a dietitian within that multidisciplinary team as well. So be it for things like diabetes, heart health, aging, liver health, kidney health. So we're literally in every disease you can think of, there is a dietitian in that team as well. In Guy's and St. Thomas's, they're so specialist, they've literally kind of split the cancers into their area. So there's upper GI, lower GI, skin, blood. There's specialist dietitians for all these conditions. And it just means that people who do need help, medical help or surgeries or anything, that the people who are within that team are specialists as well, and they understand the patient, they understand the procedures that they have gone through, they understand the medications that they're on. So all in all, just to give that patient a much better experience and ultimately a better care plan as well. So yeah, there's more of us doing weight gain advice than people think.
Oh, wow.
Mm, particularly in
Wow.
hospitals. Yeah, that's predominantly what we do. We're helping people to build back up, especially after COVID and things like that. That's what we're doing.
Oh, wonderful. I know you came with one of your
I've got a
apprentices.
student.
Yeah,
Yes, I don't know.
Michelle. Right.
Yeah,
So, Michelle, if we can, um, oh, okay, she's not there. I don't know, but um, has she logged off or something?
I can't tell. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, okay. So we'll just have you to educate us tonight. So the topic is nutrition and aging.
Mhm.
So we'll ask questions as we go along.
Yes, please do. So I'm going to start sharing my screen.
Sorry to bother. Sorry to
Before,
interject.
yeah.
Um, we'll just urge people to share this link as much as possible so that we can all be educated tonight. If not for you, it might be for your parents, or maybe
Mm,
your friend, or maybe your loved one. So please invite as many, people as possible so that we can all, help ourselves. So if anyone is on my page, could you please share from, the Inside View with Nana? If you can please share that link onto all your platforms for me, I'll be so grateful. And also anyone watching me from YouTube, please share also for me. I'll be so grateful. Thank you. So, Jasmine, the floor is yours now.
thank you. Window. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, is it, should be able to see a window.
Okay.
So I can't see anyone. So Nana, if there are any issues, any delays or things stop
No,
working,
it's
please.
okay. I mean, yeah, we can yeah, we can see the slides now.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much. So, as Nana explained, so tonight I'll be having a whistle stop tour through nutrition and aging. As Nana said, please do ask questions throughout. So either using the chat, or there is going to be a bit of an interval in the middle to just go over things that I've covered and a chance to ask any questions as well before we go into the nitty gritty of what sort of foods we should be having. So yes, welcome to today's session. So just to kind of cover a bit of the agenda, so we're looking initially at aging in the UK and comparing that to other countries across the world,
Okay.
looking at what is aging and what are the symptoms of aging, and then finally we'll be looking at what to do or what to eat to slow down aging, pause it, reverse it, and prevent potential associated health risks that are linked to aging.
Okay.
So another mini introductions. My name is Jasmine. I've been working for the NHS for 7 years, founder of Carbon Nutrition and Dietetics, and my passion is to make nutrition education accessible to all. So be it through these talks I'm doing with Nana, so just kind of getting to as many audiences as possible, or be it through other means, be it through social media or connecting with local councils. Just to say, is Dietitians Week this week, so this is my opportunity to kind of wave the flag for us. We are the only qualified regulated healthcare professionals which can assess, diagnose and treat dietary and nutritional problems. So I think sometimes dietitian and nutritionist, the lines are a little bit blurred. It's not to say that one is better than the other, that's by no means the case. The difference is between a dietitian is once we've done our degree, we are certified and registered. Whereas with a nutrition degree, there's an additional step that has to be done to become registered. So if you go for a nutritionist, you want to make sure that they are a registered nutritionist with someone called the AFN. But if someone calls themselves a dietitian, they are automatically going to be registered with someone called the HCPC council, who I need to pay before the end of the month so I can remain registered.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's quite a hefty fee actually, but it's a necessity, so I'm not complaining at all. Right, so a little bit of housekeeping. So if you don't have already, I would like you to have a notepad and a pen to make some notes, either for yourself, for your friends, for your family, your phone, in case notepad and pen is difficult, and I'd like you to kind of follow on some social media networks, and then also would like your thoughts. So this is, as much as I can't see you right now, I'm not too sure if you can see me. I want this to remain engaging. Nana, if there are any questions in the chat that might be worth pausing at that point for us to have a discussion about, please let me know.
Definitely.
Thank you. Ultimately, I want you to get as much out of this as possible, because I could just talk on and on and on and on, well, until 8, which
already, somebody from America already just saying hello from America.
Oh, amazing. Hello. Yeah, so that's that. So if you've got your phone, I would appreciate a follow on my social network. So this is just a chance for you to kind of see all the other work that I've done, some blogs that I've produced, works that I've done with clients and in one-to-one consultations and group settings. If you are on Twitter, it'd be great if we could kind of start a bit of a hashtag and even kind of shouting out Anna's page as well. Nana's page as well. That'd be really, really good. Again, it's just the point of sharing this information as far and wide as possible. We want as many people to be aware of how nutrition can affect their health and well-being as much as possible. So firstly, we're going to look a bit of a history lesson. So we're looking at age, life expectancy from when time began, really, or from when data collection began in the UK. So as far back as 1765, we can see from the axes down here. So this graph is here to represent how much the average life expectancy has increased in the UK over the past couple centuries. So there are a couple dips, and these are representative of world wars. I think one of these are smallpox, and then we've also got the kind of fast introduction and emphasis on hygiene within food, hospitals, and things like that, which minimize our risk of getting bacterial infections. So overall, you can see life expectancy in the UK was below 39 years old, which is crazy to even think of now. Now we've got people, reaching, being 80 years old is normal, whereas in 1765 that wasn't the case at all. Life expectancy is generally expected to continue to increase as our services for people who are getting older are getting much better and more personalized, more unique to the people. And like I said, these couple dips, so we've got smallpox, which happened within like the 18th century. And then we've also got the First World War, which happened in the 1910s over here. So it's just to illustrate how far we've come, really. And this is all down to better living conditions, better hygiene, and also our knowledge of food and nutrition has vastly improved. And that's had a really, really positive effect on how long we've been able to live. So this is another table, just to show a bit of a comparison between, other countries in terms of life expectancy. So across the board, so this is data from 2020, across the board, women tend to live longer than men. I guess we could have a whole conversation as to reasons why that is the case, but that tends to be the theme across many countries. We've also can see that countries of a higher socioeconomic status also tend to have a higher life expectancy than those of a lower. And this is going to be from multifactorial reasons: access to healthcare, what nutrition would have been like for them as a child, and their access to nutrition and health support as they get older. So I guess it's just to highlight again that so life expectancy and how old we get is dependent on so many different things, not so much genes and where we are, but these things can also have an effect. So what is aging? I think this might be a good opportunity to either jot a few ideas on your notepad or on your phone, or even in the chat. That would be great. What is aging? What words, connotations, or conditions do we associate with aging? I'm just going to pause for a bit just to see if we get a few messages in the chat.
Not at the moment, but
No,
maybe I might ask.
yeah, there's all an opportunity to ask a question. That's absolutely fine.
I don't know whether maybe I've gone ahead too soon, but I just want to ask, why do we eat, small as we get older? I don't know,
We're gonna come to that, but
Yeah,
essentially
that's
it's
fine.
again loads of different reasons. So
Okay,
the
fine.
primary reasons being that we are less active as we get older. Our metabolism, as a consequence, goes down. So just our appetite just isn't there to eat. So we tend to, kind of opt for having smaller meals as opposed to having those, traditional big 2 or 3 meals a day that we might have had when we were younger. Change in lifestyle. If we're not working, a 9 to 5 job, we can eat whenever we want. So end up grazing as opposed to having whole meals. But we'll go into those ideas in a bit more detail
Okay.
later.
If anybody has got questions, kindly, just forward them, or just.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be all about what's been said, but if there's any questions that you
Any
would like to
question
be
at
asked,
all?
yeah,
I mean, a question that you just want Jasmine to, support you with, please don't hesitate to, yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, I've got Lucinda, from America, saying, if you are someone who have slow metabolism, is there a way to speed it up?
The only way to really speed it up is by exercising. I know there's a lot of information, blogs, and some studies which have been done that suggest that certain foods can do it, namely things like chili, green tea. What else have I seen that supposedly can speed up metabolism? There's been a few studies, but ultimately those studies haven't been done in a way which enables us to, broaden out and say, yes, this food will speed up your metabolism. Also, what's often found, in particularly something like green tea, which has quite a lot, I say a lot in quotation marks, studies on that, is that the peak in the rise in metabolism is quite short-lived. It doesn't remain. Again, the only way that you can speed up your metabolism is by creating more metabolically active tissue, and the most metabolically active tissue is muscle, because that's where a lot of energy is burned. So that's why I guess bodybuilders and people who have a lot of muscle can get away with eating quite a lot, because if they just sit down, then their body burns it pretty much. So I hope that answers your question. We can't, foods don't really do it. The only way to do it is for exercise, and building up a bit more muscle and a bit more tone will help raise the metabolic rate.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Lovely. So I'm now going to go into a few examples of what aging can look like on the outside and on the inside. So you may have just a few things down or had a few thoughts on what aging kind of consists of and or can include, but things like changes to our hair, so it going grey, falling out, the texture changing, again, a very normal part of us getting older. Pains kind of happening out of nowhere. All of a sudden, our knees hurt, our back hurts. We're suffering from bone fractures and feeling a bit more frail as we get older. That's all quite typical of the aging process. Our skin changing, so things like liver spots or sunspots, wrinkles, the elasticity of our skin becoming, not as plump as it used to be, easy scarring, easy bruising. So all those things are, again, quite typical of the aging process as we get older. And changes in weight, so either unintentional weight loss and then finding it difficult to regain that weight, or weight gain and then finding it difficult to then lose that weight. So these are things that we might see as a result of aging, and we'll go through all the different points and kind of discuss in a bit more detail. And then in terms of the things which are happening on the inside, so our process of cell renewal, so the actual time in which it takes for our cells to turn over, shed the old ones and create new ones, that process takes longer. Our bodies just aren't as effective and efficient at doing it as we get older. Again, that is normal, but because of that process, there are going to be some, visible side effects to that. Our brains, so that may not be as effective as it used to be when we were younger. So that could be changes or weakening or slight changes of our memory, our mood. Again, these aren't absolute changes which should happen. They may not happen with everyone. It may happen with just a few people. It may not even happen at all. So it's not to say that because we're getting older, memory loss is going to happen. That's not the case at all. This doesn't happen to everyone. And then even things like our brains are going to be more susceptible to diseases, partly because of this reduced rate of cell renewal. Things like Alzheimer's disease, dementia are more likely to happen as we get older. And our brains might be affected for secondary, well, our brains might be the secondary effect of a preliminary disease, be it a stroke or poorly controlled diabetes can affect brain function later if it's not controlled well. Things like menopause as well. So this is quite typical to happen as we get older. Again, it's part of the aging process. When it happens is dependent on a lot of things, be it age, genetics, diet. So those things can have an effect. And then a reduced libido as well is quite typical as we get older. So I think some people might find that this might create some strains in relationships, but we'll kind of discuss a few things and what we can do to avoid those things. So just to kind of delve a little bit deeper on cell renewal. So I explained that cell renewal is the time in which it takes for our cells to, um, you know, be created, grow, duplicate, and then die again. So that's essentially a cell process. So babies, they can have a full skin renewal in 14 days. By the time, so within 14 days, they will literally shed the skin again. That sounds quite creepy, but it's
Wow.
essential. And it's part and parcel of health and making sure that all the dead skin, as we kind of we use exfoliators and things to do that process for us, but our skin does it itself. It's part of this mechanism, and it's part of its way of keeping it healthy. And as we
Wow.
get older, this process gets slower and slower. Teenagers, it could take about 28 days. For those between 28 to 40 years old, it could take 28 to 40 days. And then for anyone over 50, it could take up to 84 and even up to 90 days
Wow.
for the kind of all the skin to be renewed. And this again is all part and parcel of aging. Our bodies are just less effective, has less energy, it's less good at doing that process. There isn't anything we can do about it. I think the best thing that we can do is just kind of set our bodies up as well as possible earlier in life, so that when we do get later, that skin shedding kind of stays up to being more efficient as possible. And then why are we getting increased risks of fractures, pains, kind of reduced mobility, feeling lethargic and weakness? So as we get older, there is actually a 40 to 80% reduction in activity. This could be for a number of reasons, be it that we might have gained a bit more weight, so then we're not able to be as active. It might be that we are in a lifestyle which requires us to drive more, in which case we're not physically walking as much as we used to. Or we can simply we're older, so we can afford a car, so we don't have to, take public transport or walk as much as we would have done when we were younger. And then we have reduced strength. So notably, people who are over 70 years old. So there was a study done which measured hand grip strength, and it was pretty much stable, kind of pretty much average between 18 years old and kind of like mid 30s to 40s. But there was a notable drop in strength for people who are over 70 years old. So that's suggestive of some muscle weakness, some muscle loss as well, which can result in this kind of reduced strength that we're seeing potentially that could happen in people who are over 70 years old. So already mentioned already, so that change in routine, that change in lifestyle is going to have an effect on our muscle mass and also our metabolic rate. As we get older, our metabolism does change, and it can put us in a high risk of developing certain diseases, be it diabetes. Depending on our lifestyle choices and our diet, we might be at high risk of certain cancers as well. And these show up later in life because there's been certain things that we've been doing when we were younger, which almost kind of acts as like a building block to put us in a state where we are just at higher risk of certain diseases. Other reasons for reduced mobility and increased kind of pain and fractures could be things like treatment to other conditions which might have developed over time, things like kidney disease or cancers. Kind of the treatments for those can make us feel lethargic, tired, less able to move, and then thereby less able to keep our muscle density, and therefore making us feel more weak. And then menopause in women as well. So I'm going to highlight that a little bit more later. But there's the menopause is quite an interesting metabolic system in that, or hormonal system, I should say, where the estrogen, which is naturally there to kind of keep our menstrual cycles going, when the hormone estrogen stops, or starts to reduce, this is where we kind of enter that state of menopause. Our bone density actually drops as well. So the estrogen acts as a way to kind of keep the bone density there, and it's all part of this complex system to keep the bone strength there. But as women go through menopause, estrogen drops and then our bone density drops. So that puts us at a higher risk of things like falls, bones breaking, and frailty. So I'll come on to what things we should look at doing to try and minimize those things from happening. Then we've got things like weight changes as well be it the weight going up and we can't lose it, or the weight going down and we can't regain it. So just to touch on a little bit deeper on bone density. So again, so this is a really good graph to illustrate what is happening to our bones as we get older. So the red is representing women, and then the blue line is representing men. So women's height generally peaks at around kind of 28 years old, kind of ish, whereas men kind of peak a little bit younger actually, but then they obviously get a bit taller. So what essentially happens is we need to try and women and men need to try and reach our peak bone density as much as we can. And in order to do that, we need to have diets which are rich in calcium and do weight bearing exercises as well to help us to reach that peak bone density. I'll come on to foods which are rich in calcium in a minute, but in terms of weight bearing exercises, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be at the gym, lifting dumbbells and, bells and things and kettlebells. It could be as simple as, carrying shopping, holding like tins of food, carrying water bottles. All those things are weights. So doing some gentle exercises with those counts as weight bearing exercises. So as you can see, with both men and women, our bone density does tend to taper off kind of from our 40s. It starts to go downhill for both men and women. But as you can see, for men, it just, continues this kind of gradual decline, up to hundreds and beyond. Whereas for women, we get this significant dip here. And this is representative of menopause. So this is like an average woman, take it or leave it. Let's say the woman was to start her menopause at around the 55, 56 mark. This is where the estrogen, which is kind of maintaining the bone density, it started to drop off and then started to prevent that bone density from staying strong. So there's definitely a requirement for women who for everyone really, as we're going through puberty, to definitely have diets which are rich in calcium to ensure that we are reaching that peak bone density. Because if you imagine if the peak was here and then the man or the woman was to start to lose that bone density, it's going to go a lot, lower a lot quicker. So the higher we can get it, the better. But then once it does start to drop, we need to try and maintain our calcium intake as much as possible to prevent our bones from getting too thin.
Something before you go on.
Yes.
Concerning the drop in the estrogen, what happens to women, who have hysterectomy, before, their menopausal or their menopause, actual age? What happens to them? Because
the exact same thing. Yeah.
A lot of women do have hysterectomy. Sometimes 40, 45. Just based on their health issues.
Yes. Yeah.
What happens to such women? Because you say that the average age that a woman can have her bones actually begin to dip. It's 50, 55 years, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of like
what happens to women who normally have such procedures before
Hmm.
50 and above?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a really good question, Anna. Thank you. So if a woman was to undergo, a woman you know, a person with a uterus was to kind of have a hysterectomy, then by default the natural estrogen producing hormone will go with it. So then that almost kind of induces a menopausal like state, and then yes, that woman is then at risk of kind of having this early signs of bone density depletion as well. What should really happen is at that point ideally refer to a dietitian, but as a standard just kind of having potentially a higher dose of calcium prescribed, but definitely having bone density monitored and seeing what needs to be done to prevent that bone density kind of dropping too quickly too soon.
Okay. Mm.
Yeah, but no, it's a very good question. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So essentially, this dip would happen
Further.
further up. Yeah,
Okay. So that person should see a dietitian and
yeah.
also the GP. Okay,
They
that's
should
fine.
expect to be given definitely some supplementation. They might even be given estrogen supplements as well. So because they want to prevent that from happening, so kind of enable trying to continue the natural aging process as best as they could. So it really just depends on the healthcare system and the consultant who might be leading the procedure.
Okay. All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. So this is a definition from WHO, which I thought kind of encapsulated aging really, really well, and I've made a few highlights. So at a biological level, aging is a result from the impact of an accumulation of a wide variety of molecular and cellular damage over time. And this leads to a gradual increase in physical and mental capacity and a growing risk in disease. So I just wanted, in terms of the accumulation, I think that was quite important to note because it's not just one thing that leads to aging. It's loads of little things that add up, and that's tends to be the case of a lot of health issues, a lot of health concerns, and a lot of diseases. It's typically not just one thing. It's an accumulation of quite a few things, all interacting with each other to ultimately create this change over time. Um, and then, yes, the fact that it's a gradual decrease as well, physically, for physical and mental capacity. So these changes are neither linear nor consistent. So it's not to say our aging process isn't, a vertical line going down or a diagonal line going down, should I say. It happens gradually to the point where we shouldn't really notice it. Um, I've had family members who've, just said, one day they've just looked at themselves in the mirror and they thought, oh my goodness. And I thought, has that really happened? It should be like a gradual process, because our bodies are gradually just, kind of getting slower at doing that renewal of the cell generation. Um, I think this was quite a poignant point as well. Aging is loosely associated to a person's age, and the diversity seen in older age is not random. So I like to highlight the fact that it's not loosely it is loosely associated with a person's age, in that just because you're X age doesn't mean you should be doing this or look like this or have this certain condition. That's not the case at all, because we are all different. We're all unique. We've all have different upbringings. We've eaten, varieties of different diets. So how we age is going to be different. It's probably more closely linked to genes. So if it's probably better off looking at our grandparents and our elders, in terms of if we wanted to get an idea of what our aging process might be like. But even then, how they grew up versus how we grew up is going to be very different. um, and then diversity seen in age is not random. So there are going to be things which will have an effect on how well or not well we age later in life. So this will be things like, well, I'll touch on them in the next slide, but obviously we'll be focusing on nutrition in this talk. So yeah, just to highlight, the diversity seen in older age is not random. So it could be a result of genes. Like I said, if we want to kind of have an idea of how we're going to age, it's best we look within our family as opposed to reading magazines or looking to social media, that's not going to be as a realistic comparison of how we think we're going to be aging. Um, the food we eat, so obviously we're going to be focusing on nutrition, stress levels, life, and then lifestyle through adulthood and life transitions as well, such as retirement, relocation to more appropriate housing. The death of friends and partners will also have a part to play as well in how well we age in terms of our mental health. And lifestyle choices such as alcohol, smoking, the sort of jobs we go into and how long we're in certain jobs for. All those things have an impact on how we age. So I thought this might be a good opportunity to have another bit of a pause. If there's any questions or anything we'd want to kind of delve into a little bit deeper about what we spoke about before, if there's anything we'd like to touch on now.
I've got a question from Elaine.
Yeah.
She also said, okay, she said, you said, as you said, exercise is a key thing to building up a faster metabolism.
Yeah.
Can your metabolism change depending on the type of exercise you do?
That I would have to do more reading to give you a full and robust answer. But generally speaking, any exercise which is going to enable you to build muscle, so there's that metabolically active tissue, that's what's going to raise your metabolism. Um, Again, it's not to say that we would want you, it's not, kind of pushing and lifting a lot of heavy weights all day, every day. It's gentle exercises which is going to help tone and burn off some of the less metabolically active tissue and actually build on the more metabolically active tissue. So any sport or exercise which is going to help tone, build a bit of muscle is going to be the ones which are going to help raise your metabolism. So yeah, it could be things like like just carrying shopping, I guess walking uphill, so you're engaging your core a lot more, and using your glutes and your muscles. Taking the stairs again, that's a bit more kind of using your own body weight in the sense like what's in the sense of kind of that sort of exercise. Um, I'm trying to think of examples which don't include going to the gym. Even just doing like a YouTube class as well, where yeah, you're at home using your own body weight as a way to build some muscle.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There's another one from Lucinda as well. She asked, would you recommend dietary supplements for weight loss?
For weight loss, no, definitely not. Definitely not. They at a push, the ones which work the best work by holding on to the fat from the foods that you eat, and then it almost, well, it does cause a loose stool, so a diarrhea. So the idea behind those sorts of medications is that it's meant to kind of deter you from eating foods which are high fat, higher energy. However, there is no kind of food education and nutrition education with it. It's just a tablet which is meant to, I guess, just bind to the fat so that it's not stored, it's potentially excreted out. But then that doesn't mean that the quality of the diet that you're eating or that you swap to is going to be any better. You're better off making small, and we'll cover some of the sort of changes that you could do instead. Yeah, you're better off kind of making small changes to your diet, including the odd treat as well, because having foods which are high in fat and high in sugar in small amounts can be part of a healthy diet. It's not to say that we would completely write them off unless there was, some medical reason why we had to for a short period of time, then we would consider doing that. But yeah, no, diet pills, diet drinks. When I say diet drinks, I mean like drinks which suggest that they help to lose weight. So there's like belly teas, pills, powders. They would not be something that a registered dietitian or nutritionist would recommend.
Okay. Thank you so much. There's another one from Kofi Martin.
Yeah.
He's also asking, how can one build more body or physical strength in aging?
Yeah. So some of the things that I gave examples of before, so those things like just gentle weight bearing exercises. What I can do is I can send maybe some examples or some YouTube videos which might be worth kind of looking into and reading a bit, or watching them as examples of sort of exercises you could do. I'm not a qualified, so I'm not a physiotherapist, so I don't want to, suggest exactly the sort of exercises you should be doing. I'm very much, stay in my lane. I can only suggest the sort of things which I know can help with weight bearing, but in terms of kind of giving, a demonstration, I won't be, able to do that. But essentially, anything where you are, lifting some sort of weight, it's a weight bearing exercise, then that will be something that's going to help build strength over time.
Wonderful. I know we are talking about aging, but then what nutrition is required for different age groups?
Yeah. Okay, I guess that's literally like a dissertation question. It could be
I mean, just break it
in a
down,
short
in
answer.
your own
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
So babies, they are as little as they are, they actually need quite a lot of calories and quite a lot of energy because people who've had children, you would see them, they literally, they're growing day by day, even during the day. You're physically seeing them get bigger and bigger and bigger. So that requires a lot of energy to do that. So they have actually quite high energy requirements for being so small. Um, and then as we get to kind of like toddlerish, that kind of like weaning stage, they're looking at trying to get more sources of protein, vitamins, and minerals that they would have otherwise got from their mother's breast milk, or they would have got from fortified powdered milks. So their requirements for certain vitamins and minerals are going to be quite high, and the calcium requirements will stay high because again they're really trying to lay down a good foundation for their bone health and their bone density. So now we're at teenage years. This is where we kind of see the gender split in terms of requirements. So for girls who are going through puberty, their iron requirements, their folate requirements, they are significantly higher than it would be of boys because they are, kind of having that menstrual cycle. They are shedding blood, so they need to make sure that the iron levels are maintained and that their red blood cell count is healthy, to avoid things like fatigue, anemia, and other kind of iron related deficiencies. There was also quite a lot of brain growth as well, and a lot of I guess from baby to teenagers, there's a lot of brain growth. So things like omega-3 is really important at that sort of stage to kind of strengthen those neurons within the brain, and again trying to have as many synapse connections within the brain as much as possible. So I'm just trying to think. Now we're at kind of a young adult. So this age, particularly within the Western world, the quality of our diets tend to dip a little bit because, generally speaking now, this is where we kind of get a little bit, work focused, career focused, or which we're figuring things out. And diet and nutrition kind of falls on the back seat a little bit. Exercise tends to become more important, but then we kind of forget about what we should be eating alongside being fit. So yeah, so we're probably getting enough or too much calories, but from the wrong sources. We're starting to be a bit more, well, we should be autonomous at that point. So we're cooking for ourselves, or we're ordering more takeaways. We might have left home, so that's a whole different ball game with all the sorts of nutrition and things we'll be looking at. And then as we get older, again, it might split again between men and women. Women who become pregnant, the requirements going to be slightly different. Well, they will be different versus men who aren't pregnant. For women who are going through pregnancy, we'd expect them to take vitamins prior to the pregnancy and then during the pregnancy, particularly in something called folate, which prevents fetal neuro defects within the baby. And then also want to make sure that the mum has got enough kind of vitamins and calories and energy to make sure that she's okay, because once baby's in there, baby will literally suck everything from the mum. So if anything, mum will be deficient, but baby will be fine. So mum needs to make sure that she's taking her vitamins as well and eating a really good balanced diet. And then now we're talking about old age, well, later age. So that's kind of whistle stop tour through that. Again, I can send a few resources if any of those kind of
Sure.
age stages are of interest. that is very, very generally speaking. Obviously, everyone's different, but I think it just highlights that whether you're male or female, and even kind of transitioning people, there's going to be different requirements for different people. Yeah, and depending on what's going through your life at the moment, whether you're going through puberty, whether you're having a baby, just had a baby, stress, disease, operations, all these things are going to have an effect on what you should be eating at that moment in time.
Yeah. Okay. Before you go into the next, slide, I just want to talk about, my T-shirt today. I'm
Yeah,
talking about, like today I'm wearing Canvas of His Grace, which was given to me by my daughter. It's a new clothing line, and it's a Christian, T-shirt, and they've got, variety. They've got the hoodies, the T-shirts, the cups, and the shorts, and they are main motivation for coming up with this brand is to just preach the word through their t-shirts, through everything that they wear on them. So if you want this t-shirt, please follow Esther on her page, and it's called Canvas of His Grace. She's on Instagram at Canvas of His Grace Limited, and also on Facebook, Canvas of His Grace. Please, let's all patronize on Esther's t-shirts, hoodies, caps, shorts, and all her, clothing line, Canvas of His Grace. Thank you so much, Esther, for giving me these wonderful t-shirts. Thank you. Yeah, back to you, and Jasmine.
amazing. Thank you. There were some really, really good questions. I hope that, again, people will be able to kind of get a few points from my bit of a ramble, but I
Yeah,
will, yeah, I'm more than happy to send some resources on kind of all those different age milestones and sort of things we should be kind of looking at focusing.
yeah.
But it is very individual, so just to bear that in mind. Okay,
Sure.
so we're moving on to what to eat to slow down aging, pause aging, and reverse aging. So we've
I
all
can't wait
probably
for that
come.
one. I just want to
Oh,
reverse my age. I don't want to age.
I think I'm going to disappoint a few of you here because I guess the buzzword anti-aging.
I'm joking.
So I just did a Google search, sorry, a search engine search earlier today. So I wanted to make this as kind of timely as possible, and just one search for foods which will make me younger, I got over 3 million hits in under a second. So as you can appreciate, trying to find this cure or this fountain of cure in quotation marks, or this fountain of youth to try prevent or stop or slow down aging, it's this never ending cycle and this never ending pursuit to reach it. And we are given so many products and sold so many stories and products that work and do X, Y, and Z and remove wrinkles and do all sorts of things. But um, so I'm sorry to say, but there is nothing that will reverse it or stop it. It is natural. We should be getting older. We should be looking forward to getting older. It's part of life, and we can say goodbye to our younger years and actually enjoy us getting older and wiser and just enjoying the fruits of our labor as so to speak. So um, it's just to highlight that it's not as simple as having one particular food which is going to pause or reverse aging. It's going to be a collection of foods, a whole diet, in fact, that's going to support the aging process in as best way as possible. So how do we do that? So this may you a point where you might want to take a few notes or kind of get your phone out. So I'm not too sure if I mentioned this at the beginning, but my speciality and my focus is around African and Caribbean diet. So this is why I've used the African and Caribbean Eat Well plate in this infographic here. It's produced by the Diverse Nutrition Association. So this is a remodeling of our Eat Well guide, which we use in the UK, and it's incorporated foods which are quite popular within African and Caribbean diets. So not to say that, because being in the UK, so I'm Caribbean of background, being in the UK, I don't eat Caribbean food every day. I don't think I could, it's so expensive here. I don't think I could afford to. But it's just to show that, our traditional foods can and should, can and should be part of a healthy diet. You don't have to be healthy by excluding these foods. They can and they should be part of it. So this Eat Well guide essentially is demonstrating what we should aim to eat across the week, or what we should aim for our plates to look like as we're eating a meal. Please feel free to ask questions, use the chat. I'm literally just going to kind of, in summary, go through each of the points and how it can support aging. So the yellow section here is our starchy carbohydrates. These include foods like bread, rice, pasta, yam, dashin, fufu, breadfruit, all those starchy hard foods, the foods that fill us up. That's what comes under that food group. So we want to make sure that we're having a good, we want to make sure that our meals are based around these foods. This is where we're getting our energy, and the energy in the form of glucose. So we've probably heard that word before. People kind of, sometimes call it sugar or starch, but essentially what starch, once it's broken down to its smaller little molecules, it is glucose. And this is actually our brain's favorite energy source. This is what it likes to fuel on. So in terms of kind of keeping a healthy, functioning, kind of well-supported brain and supporting our brain health as we get older, we want to make sure that we are getting, a good amount of these starchy carbohydrates within our diet. The more fiber the starchy carbohydrate has, the better. And fiber is usually these foods which are wrapped around starchy carbohydrates. They're wrapped around some fruits and vegetables as well. But those foods don't actually get digested. They just kind of sit within the gut and they go down to the lower colon, where we've got this lovely kind of world of bacteria that support our health as well. So if we're having diets which have got a good amount of starchy carbohydrates, and most of those carbohydrates are, they've got the higher fiber. So so when I say high fiber, we're saying things like keeping skins on potatoes, opting for brown rice, brown pastas, having plantain, I'm going to say it both ways, which is not so much on the ripe side. So maybe kind of having it when it's a bit more yellow, not waiting for it to be as sweet. So when it's not as sweet, that's where we're going to get more of the fiber from those foods. So that's going to support our gut health, which ultimately is going to support our overall health and prevent diseases such as like diabetes from coming about, or at least managing our diabetes if it's there already, and supporting kind of our overall health as well. And then I'm going to go clockwise, and we've got this purple section here, which is oils and spreads. So these are, quite important in terms of our cooking, and can be a really good source of omega-3s as well, and particularly the plant and the seed oils. We want to keep them in small amounts though, because although they can be good for our health and can be a rich source of energy, which means that it doesn't take a lot for us to get, to make the meal a bit more calorific if it doesn't need to be. So that might be kind of being wary of fried foods which require a bit of oil, or require quite a significant bit of oil in our cooking. So palm oil would also come under here as well. Where possible, making some swaps to the healthier oils. So, for example, using rapeseed oil, sunflower seed oil, or olive oil. Those are going to be much healthier and more better for our health, particularly our hearts as well, than say coconut oil, butter, ghee, and palm oil. So not to say that you can't use it. If you're going to use it in small amounts, but where possible, use more of the use more of the seed oils. And then when we come to the blue section here, so this is our dairy products and dairy alternatives. This is particularly, quite rich in calcium and phosphate as well. Those both are going to help with our bone health. So as I mentioned before, that's something that we really need to kind of be mindful of as we do get older, that our bone density does tend to drop. So we want to make sure that we are having a good amount of high calcium foods, be it from dairy foods or from some leafy green vegetables as well, which can be really high in calcium. If we are dairy intolerant, obviously having things like nut milks or soy milks are a really good swap, but just making sure that they are fortified, so do have the additional calcium added to them to make sure that it is a better swap. So we're moving across onto our proteins, things like beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat, and other proteins, such as kind of like agusi, tin tuna, quinoa. What else have we got in there? Prawns. So these are all really good sources of protein. As I mentioned, as we get older, our requirements for protein doesn't actually get any higher unless there was, for example, an infection, or if there was a wound which needed healing, or if we just had, hospital admission. Protein requirements tend to be slightly higher in those sorts of cases. So these are going to be the easiest ways to get those sources of protein. So generally, so whether we're older or at any age, we should be looking and choosing those protein sources which have got the least amount of visible fat on them. So it might be choosing cuts of meat which where you're able to take the fat off the meat. And then also within this section, we're also looking at some oily fish. So things like sardines, salmon, mackerel, herring, all those oily fish are really good sources of omega-3. And I mentioned earlier, that's something that is really important in terms of brain health. So making sure that we're getting good portions of omega-3 in our diet is really important. As well as it's being important for our brains, it's also really positive and important for our hearts. So there's kind of quite a few reasons to why we should try and incorporate some oily fish into our diet. If we can't take oily fish, then definitely consider taking a supplement if that's easier on you. And then before I come on to the last section, I just wanted to touch on these foods mentioned before. So those foods, crisp, cakes, biscuits. Like I said, that we have to completely omit those foods for our diets to be healthy. They can be part of it, just in small doses. So, leaving it for those family occasions, celebrations, parties, that's where we might want to treat ourselves to those foods, whereas we don't want to have them, as part of our like daily intake. And then finally, we've come to another big portion of our Eat Well guide, fruits and vegetables. So I don't think I have to explain, going to masses of detail into fruits and vegetables, but it's just to say that, again, it could be fruits that we're familiar with, be it in the Caribbean or in Africa and all sorts of parts of the world. As long as it's a fruit or a vegetable, it will be healthy. In terms of fruits, we might want to be mindful of the amount that we have, particularly if we have diabetes, or if we're trying to manage our weight, because they are also a source of sugar, healthy sugar, sugar which is naturally there, but sugar the same. So we want to be mindful of not having too much fruits, whereas vegetables is pretty much, no limit. We can have as much as we are able to tolerate. So I just wanted to highlight some really good examples here. So things like spices and herbs can be an added point of your fruit and vegetable intake. So using thyme, coriander, parsley, those sort of things will not only add flavor to your meals, but also will count towards a portion of fruit and vegetables. And then at the top here, this is just a note to be mindful of food packaging. So if we are buying foods which are pre-prepared, obviously we'd like to kind of choose meals which are homemade as much as possible. But on the times where we can't, being mindful of the labels, particularly taking a look at what they constitute as a portion. So if you're looking at a pizza label, for example, are they giving you the calories for the whole pizza or half the pizza? So that will help that will help you make a more informed decision onto whether or not that food might be better versus when you compare it to another food. So I just want to swing back over to fluids, and we should be aiming for about 6 to 8 glasses. I don't have a glass with me; it would be nice to show, but yeah, about 6 to 8 glasses a day of fluid. It doesn't have to be water. It can you can add squash to it. It can be a herbal tea. Um, and some herbal teas can interact with medication, so just be mindful of that as well. Check the label of those herbal teas to check. For example, licorice can interact with some heart medication, so just to be mindful of that. But yeah, things like other teas, coffees can all count towards your fluid intake. Things like fruit juice and smoothies, trying to limit that as much as possible. Again, kind of having that as a treat, but when and where when you can. Simply for the fact of if we take a glass of orange juice, for example, that it probably took about 12 oranges to get the juice to fill that glass, whereas the likelihood of you eating 12 oranges is probably quite low. So you're getting quite a lot of calories. Again, they are good quality calories because they've come from a fruit, but calories in the same, where we may be trying to be mindful of the amount of juice we're having in a day. So water is a better option. Water with dilute fruit squash is always great. No added sugar would be preferable. Um, but yes, this is just again a guide of what we should be aiming to have. If there are certain conditions, be it a heart condition or diabetes or like thyroids, our diet is going to be slightly tweaked and slightly different. But for the general person, this is what we should be aiming for. So I don't know, just if what would be good homework for yourself, it might be just to kind of do a food log, kind of jot down what you eat on a typical day. Take 3 days. It's good to kind of get a bit of an average. And then, have a look what you're eating and then see if there's any swaps that you could make. Maybe you need to increase your intake of vegetables. Maybe we need to try and incorporate some different types of protein into your diet. Maybe we need to look at changing the way that things are cooked to maybe swap to a healthier oil, something like that. But yeah, I'll leave that for you to ponder on. If there's any kind of questions or things you'd like to comment on later, please do let me
Yeah,
know.
I've got 2 questions here.
Yeah,
I've got a personal question. Somebody has just sent me a private message that I would like to read before we come to the comment section. Here goes, Nana. I'm diabetic, and I've also got a problem with heavy bleeding. But during my cycle, or like during my my flow, anytime I eat vegetables, my bleeding gets worse.
okay.
What can be done about it?
The bleeding gets worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I think I can probably speak for a lot of women, when we do have our periods, our what we eat does affect it, and the fact that, so you're saying that when you eat certain vegetables, the bleeding just becomes heavier.
Yeah, she goes, any form of vegetable at all, my
It becomes
bleeding gets
heavier.
worse.
Okay, that's probably something we will probably be worth kind of
She's
delving into a little
diabetic
bit
as
more
well.
separately. Yeah, because there's probably a few more questions I'd want to ask you before giving you a proper answer. So I'm not too sure. I think my email might be at the end of the talk, but yeah, it might be worth having a bit of a chat on it. I'm just sorry, Nana. I'm aware of the time. I am running over.
No, it's okay.
Is
It's
that
okay.
okay?
It's okay. Yeah,
Okay.
sure, sure. And I think I've got one from SC Educate. Also, she goes, this eatwell guide is fantastic.
Oh,
It
well, it's not me,
is
but yeah.
it is definitely something new to me, considering the fact that African individuals can have a greater risk of weight-related long-term conditions. Do
Mm,
you not think such guides need to be more advertised and
yeah,
accessible and
absolutely.
accessible? Also, how can we raise more awareness of such useful guide for this
Yeah.
community?
So this I mean, I mentioned them already, but they've already kind of, put their brand on the Eatwell guide, on the
Yeah.
Eatwell guide. So the Diverse Nutrition Society, headed by Melissa St. Hill, Ameze Maduka, and Ashley Simpson, they created this. So if you want any more information on this Eatwell guide, they've got a really good website. So the Diverse Nutrition Society is their website, and this is evidence as well. So they went out and did their research. They spoke to people. They did their grassroots, information gathering. They spoke to people who, previously would have looked at the standard Eatwell guide, which is massively lacking on diversity, and isn't useful for people who are of African or Caribbean descent who need support with weight loss or diet changes. So to have this resource which actually gives examples of foods which are recognizable is definitely a massive step in the right direction. In terms of advertising and making it more accessible, this is something that we are trying to push within our different governing bodies. So there should be more awareness on it. I completely do agree with you, but I would have to say that we do have this, so this is good, and it's great that I'm able to use this today and show you guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So can we have it, more advertised on, places like, this GP surgeries, like train stations, like bus stations, because these are the places that people normally, the traffic is, just for people to see.
Yeah,
Because if you
yeah.
just give it to just the websites, I mean, how many people do visit such sites? So
That's
maybe
that's
if you,
the thing. Yeah. I mean, if you've got any kind of ties or connections with local authorities, so I do talks for local councils, and I use this as a research, and I've got another Eatwell guide that I use as well. So we've got a South Asian one that we use for presentations as well. Um, I think, yeah, if that we it definitely does need to be shared more widely, but there's red tape.
yeah,
Yeah, that delays the process, but I am in absolute agreement with you. This does need to be more widely shared, but at least we know now. So I'm here to share it with
yeah.
you today. Yeah, and like I said, if you do want more information and want a downloadable version of the Seatwell Guide, the Diverse Nutrition Society here,
Mm-hmm.
Association, sorry, that's where you can access it.
Okay, and I think I've got just another one from Lucinda. So she goes, I have never been able to do calorie count because
Mm,
I have not seen the app that has traditional food that we eat.
mhm.
What would you recommend?
So I am not an advocate for calorie counting at all, as that's my personal way of giving advice and helping to support weight loss. I don't think it is effective, especially when if you sometimes when you do a direct comparison of calories, it can make you make a poorer decision. If, for example, you might look at trying to think of an example now. In some cases, a chocolate bar can have less calories than a salad, you know, depending on what's in the salad. And then based on calories, the chocolate bar might be the healthier option, but we know it's not. So I think calories are helpful to know or have an idea of, but to base weight loss solely on calories, I think isn't the way forward. So treating foods as a whole, meals as a whole, trying to make sure that we're getting the main food groups and choosing more of these and less of these is the way to do it. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's my first time of hearing this. That we shouldn't concentrate on calories, but we
That's
should.
what works with my clients, honestly. Like yeah, just counting calories isn't, and then you kind of get stuck in that hole of counting calories,
Mm,
and it takes the enjoyment out of food, it takes the enjoyment out of eating. It's good to have an awareness of what foods are going to be higher versus what foods are going to be lower, but to know that this slice of bread has X amount of calories, whereas that wrap has X amount of calories, they're both carbohydrates, they're both high fiber sources, you know, it shouldn't matter.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's my take on it.
Good. Okay. Yeah, we can continue now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys for your questions. So, I don't know if you remember. So, the D point of the things we were going to discuss was things that we can eat to prevent associated health risks linked to aging. So, one thing that we know, one health risk associated with aging is cognitive decline. Um, we know that being overweight or obese can increase our blood pressure and can also increase our chance of getting type 2 diabetes, both of which can put a person at a higher risk of Alzheimer's disease or vascular disease. So this is just reason to reduce our risk of type 2 diabetes. If we do have type 2 diabetes, trying to do what we can to make sure it's under controlled and, making diet choices which are keeping our blood sugars at bay as much as we can. In terms of blood pressure, foods which are particularly high in salt and stress can affect blood pressure. So making diet choices where we're reducing our salt intake, using less salt in our food, will help bring that lower. In terms of stress, I mean, depending on the stress, if it's something that is it a stress that can be quickly resolved, can you remove the self situation, or do we need to think of ways to manage the stress, be it through counseling, talking therapies, meditation, going for a walk. The wonders of a walk is walking is great mentally, physically. So there's those sort of things we would probably think about. And then another thing, so we can't prevent menopause, but in terms of the risks affected, the health risk associated with menopause being our reduced bone density. So again, this number probably doesn't mean anything. So we should be aiming for about 1,300 milligrams of calcium. This equates to about 3 to 4 portions of a high dairy or high calcium food. So those dairy foods I mentioned, things like milk, cheese, or those dairy alternatives which are fortified. Calcium rich, so other calcium rich foods could be small fish where the bones are still in them, so things like sardines, sprats, kippers where the bones are so fine you can eat them. That's a really good calcium rich food. And a lot of leafy green vegetables are really rich in calcium. So things like kale, spinach, broccoli, quite good powerhouses of calcium. Another thing which has been kind of highlighted as a way of managing menopause, more so the symptoms, is something called phytoestrogens. And they work in the body because they kind of act similar to estrogen, but not to say that they are estrogen at all, but they kind of respond to the estrogen receptors similarly. So it can reduce some of the mood swings, it can reduce the hot flushes, and it can just make the overall menopause period a bit smoother. Examples of foods with phytoestrogens include soya, so that could be soy milk, soybeans, things like tempeh and other soy products, and also linseeds. So kind of using the ground linseeds or whole linseeds in our foods or our salads or in our yogurt can help to increase our intake of phytoestrogens. And then just another focus really on bone health and just to highlight the importance of it. So this is just a reel of the sort of vitamins we should be ensuring that we have to prevent untimely fractures and brittleness of our bones. I could have gone into giving examples of each food which has all these different vitamins and minerals, but essentially, if you are having a well-balanced diet most of the time, you are reaching these requirements. So, and if your diet isn't as healthy as you think it could be, definitely take a multivitamin to ensure that you are reaching these requirements. To kind of get into the nitty gritty to find out exactly if you are meeting those requirements, we probably have to do like a diet, or do a thorough diet history and do a data analysis. But generally, if we are eating a well balanced diet, fruit and vegetables, and then kind of make sure we're getting our protein sources or our veg or sorry or our vegan or vegetarian options in there as well. Make sure that we're kind of meeting all these vitamin and minerals within our diet day to day. The only exception, and I should have highlighted it, being vitamin D. We can get it from some foods which are fortified, so they will have vitamin D added to them. Those foods include eggs and margarine, but the best way to get vitamin D is from the sun. We are in England, we don't get enough sun, so we would definitely recommend a multi AM vitamin D supplement, 10 milligrams to be exact. If for those who are melanated, who've got darker skin tone, we especially need vitamin D because we just don't get enough sun here. So in the UK, as I'm saying here, so in order to make sure that we are getting enough vitamin D all year round, we would need to take a vitamin D supplement every day, all year round, and that's to support our bone health as well. And then just looking at things like weight, be it weight gain or weight loss. So again, without going into because this could be a whole separate talk in itself, without going into detail into ways to um, lose unintentional weight that you might have gained. Essentially, a diet plan would be focusing on reviewing portion sizes, looking at lifestyle choices, and trying to increase physical activity. Particularly physical activity is going to get your heart going, some cardio, that's going to help keep us active and help burn any energy any energy reserves that may not necessarily need to be there. And then kind of having that weight loss can also help manage any other potential health conditions that we might have, and ease pressure on our joints, making physical activity easier as well. And in terms of unintentional weight loss, so I think this was kind of briefly touched on at the beginning of the talk. So in both cases, weight loss and weight gain as we get older is common, but it shouldn't be expected. It shouldn't be something to say, oh, I'm getting older, I'm losing weight, I'm getting older, I'm gaining weight, it's normal. It shouldn't be normal. We should be kind of staying, roughly around the same weight. There is a bit of room to gain a little bit more, and there is some research to support that once we hit over 65 years old, we should be of a slightly heavier kind of weight to support and prevent things like falls, skin damage. Kind of gives us a bit of a buffer if something was to happen. So, yeah, it's just to highlight that we shouldn't really be looking at gaining or losing too much weight as we get older. Things to focus on if unintentional weight loss is noticed, trying to increase our intake of foods which are rich in calories, so things like oils, full fat. So this is where we would kind of switch to kind of going for the full fat options, which sounds a bit of a contradiction. But if someone's got a really poor appetite, they're really struggling to eat, we want to try and get as much calories in as small meals as possible. So it might be a case of kind of opting for the full fat meals just for the time being while we try and get the weight back up. And as I mentioned before, weight bearing exercises are going to help as well to try and retain that muscle and build that muscle back up. Just something to consider as well as we do get older, these trying to lose weight or gain weight are going to be much difficult as we get older because of existing health issues, those changes in activity levels, medications which we might already be on, and those metabolism changes as well is going to have an effect on how easily we find it to gain and lose weight. Not to say that it's impossible, but it's just to say, just a note that we might find it a bit more difficult. So it's important that we kind of have that in our mind as we are getting older. We want to try and put us in the best state possible for as we get older. Okay, and then I think I'll come up to the last few slides now. So in terms of libido, again, this tends to be due to a natural decline in hormones, so testosterone and or estrogen, and then I think there's quite a lot of, again, kind of pseudoscience and some research, I use the word loosely, studies that certain foods can help, but the best thing to really do is have open conversations with your partner and seek counselling if necessary. And then in terms of those physical signs of aging, what we can do to try and moderate and prevent those from being more apparent, the I can't stress the importance of staying hydrated. We should be drinking at least 2 liters of fluid a day, more on hot days, and especially more if we're having if there's any conditions where we're kind of sweating a lot or losing a lot more fluid. So at least 2 liters of fluid a day. And like I mentioned, it could be water with a sugar-free squash added to it, or it could be a herbal tea. Those fluids all still count. If we're trying to gain weight, things like milk will count towards fluid intake as well. The importance of having at least 5 portions of fruit vegetable a day. So again, fruit vegetables are a really good source of those vitamins and minerals, which act as on some of those vitamins act as antioxidants, and they basically knock out those things molecules in our bodies which can spur on the aging process. So having a good portion of fruits and vegetables in our day-to-day diet is really important and will help support kind of preventing those physical signs of aging kind of becoming more apparent. Staying out of direct sunlight for too long. So although we should be, staying out for about 20 minutes to get some vitamin D in, anything more than that can be quite damaging. So making sure that we've got sunblock, or having linen cloths or cotton clothing on over us to make sure that we are protecting our skin. Including our face, daily SPF is so important as well, regardless if there's sun or not. The UV rays can penetrate through clouds, so it's really important that we are, just kind to ourselves and kind to our skin, and treat it well. And then finally, I don't think there's just to highlight again the importance of moisturizing. So hydrating inside through fluid, and also moisturizing our skin daily as well is really, really important to kind of keep it supple and keep it healthy. Oh, sorry. And just a final point before I take the embrace it. So, like I said earlier, I mean, aging is normal. We are meant to go through it. It's something to be, I feel, it's to be enjoyed ultimately. You kind of get to a point where you can look back, the lessons that you've learned, the things that you've done, and kind of reminisce some good memories. And hopefully, you've got as many people around you as possible as well. So, aging is something to be enjoyed. So, please take that as a take-home message. So, in summary, we are living longer, which is great, but that also means that we need to make sure that our nutrition matches the needs of our body. What we ate as a 10-year-old is not what we should be eating, as we get older. Aging is a natural process with outward and inward symptoms, and all these are normal. It may not happen to everyone, but these are things that we can expect to see. Except for the weight loss and weight gain, that is typical to happen, but we wouldn't class that as something that's normal, or we wouldn't want to encourage that to happen. While there isn't anything we can do to slow down, pause, or reverse the effects, there's things that we can do to ensure that we do age healthily. And that's the main point I want you to take from this. Taking care of physical and mental health is important throughout your life, and this doesn't go away as we get older. So it's great that we're focusing on what we should be doing as we get older. I think that should be kind of thought about kind of throughout life, and kind of making changes whenever we can to make sure that as we do get older, it just puts us at a better position later in life. Some things to highlight as well. So book an appointment with your GP if you're concerned about your health. If anything that I've mentioned made you think, oh, I should probably, speak to my GP about this thing or that thing, or maybe I should go get a blood test, then please do that. Please do ask to be referred to a dietitian if you are, should have been if, apologies, not of. Please be asked to refer to a dietitian if you are concerned about your weight or your diet. So, like I said, we are, are registered professionals who can diagnose and treat nutrition-related health conditions. So, please do, feel free to speak to a dietitian. My last slide now is just to say that as you've kind of joined this talk, I'd actually like to offer you guys a very special discount in any kind of consultation you wanted to have with myself. So if there's anything specific that you would like to go over in terms of a care plan and have a bespoke meal plan at the end of it, please do get in contact with me. So if you just, say that you kind of met me or, was able to join the talk with us today, please let me know in an email. I've got my website on the side as well. So please get in contact. I really do want to help as many people as possible. If there's a few of you who feel like you might benefit from a bit more tailored advice, maybe it was worth clubbing together, and then we can do a talk specific to what you might want to go over. That's at the bottom there. So yeah, just let me know. But yeah, please feel free to follow myself on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And if you do have Twitter, please do tweet Carbon Nutrition in Aging. Thank you so much. And I'd like to open the floor for any more questions, comments. If there's anything specific, I would encourage you to perhaps I don't have my, so you can email me. You can go on my website and then fill in a inquiry form, and then we can kind of have a little chat then. But if you've got any general questions or comments, please feel free to ask away.
Yeah, there's a question from SCHK again. Because as she goes, are there specific types of food that promote weight gain or weight loss in specific parts of the body?
In specific parts of the body, no. So you won't eat a croissant, for example, and it's going to go to your arm. It it will break down and it will store where it stores. For women and for women of Black Caribbean and Black African heritage, we tend to have most of our fat stores on our hips, which is actually a really healthy place to have fat. So that's actually quite good. We're quite lucky. Whereas kind of fat stores around our stomach is more signifying of potentially kind of like potential metabolic conditions which could happen later in life, particularly something like diabetes. So if we do have weight around the hip, as around the waist, sorry, that's something we should be a bit more mindful of and a bit more kind of focus on trying to reduce. Whereas if our weight tends to fall on our hips, it's not as large a concern because it's probably, it's definitely a healthier place to store fat. But yeah, sorry, to answer your question, there isn't, foods don't kind of lose or gain in particular areas. It just lands where they want to, unfortunately. As we get older, they tend to decide to sit more on our stomach area, but I think that's more because that's where like another pocket of fat storage kind of develops as we get older.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Viewers, we have Jasmine's contact details. Just live here. I mean, it's on the screen. It's www.carbonnutrition.co.uk, and her personal email is also jasmine@carbonnutrition.co.uk. Then we have a contact number. I don't know whether you want me to put your contact number because I think what's on your.
I think it's on the website, so yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
All right. It's 079 56 318 and 963. So it's 079 56 318 963. So if you want any advice, if you want any help, you're with your diet or with any health issue, yes, you can contact Jasmine Carbon, and I think it should be more than willing or welcome to help you. Yeah. So you've really educated us tonight, and we've learned that aging, I mean, is part of life, and we should learn to embrace it. And the most important thing is we should age healthily, in order to take care of our, mental health and other health related issues as well. It's been awesome. I hope that you can, I would say, just testify, because just see the number of questions that came in. These are questions that are so related to what you talked about tonight. So I can tell that a lot of people have been engaged and people have really enjoyed this conversation. So if you are not live with us, please, you can go back and watch this important discussion, because age, nobody can run away from aging. I mean, it's part of life, and we should embrace it gracefully and also healthily. So thank you, Jasmine, for your time. And I know maybe you come back again, maybe to educate us maybe on another topic, because tonight we've been made to know that dietitians are not just there to help us lose weight. They are there to help us on so many health related issues. So thank you so much. And if you're struggling with your weight, just like she said, you can speak to your GP, and he or she can refer you to a dietitian, and they will help you, with your weight. And also, especially for the women, if you're having aches, joint aches, please make sure you see or speak to your healthcare provider for them to check your bone density as well. And we should be mindful of what we eat as we are aging. So thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much. No
Thank,
worries.
thank
All right, we'll
you.
say goodbye
Thank
now.
you.
Take care.
Goodbye. Goodbye. And thank
Bye.
you, like anyone that contributed. Thank you so much for your company. Thank you so much. And
Thank you
see you
so
next.
much.
Bye bye.